Good morning, students. Hope you all are staying safe at home. Today we will be learning about a new chapter of history, chapter 2, the establishment of company power. As there is a new term, mercantilism, and the establishment of company power. Now, what is mercantilism? It means that no other than English company could trade with the East part. Elimination of competition was the main aim of the countries which followed the policy of mercantilism. As goods from the East, such as silks and porcelain from China and fine cottons, spices and jewelry from India, they were in heavy demand in the country of the West. Here, Vasco da Gama, he was a Portuguese explorer who discovered a direct sea route from Europe to India. Soon there were many trading companies who began to be formed in different European countries to take the advantage of rich opportunities for making profit which existed in trade with the East. And with this intention, there was a small group of English merchants who formed English East India Company EEIC in 1600 in England. Queen Elizabeth I of England, they granted them monopoly over trade in the East in exchange of a small share of a profit. Here, the main aim was, as I told you, that there was the elimination of competition. Where in 1615, the EEIC they obtained permission from the Mughal Emperor Jahangir to establish their trading posts like factories at Surat. So Surat was the first and chief English settlement of the western coast of India. Here, the company they started building the trading posts at Madras, Bengal, and Bombay, and there were some fortified settlements which were built around the trading posts, which expanded to form as presidency towns: Madras, Bombay, and Calcutta. They were the three presidency towns. Over the period of time, presidency towns they became the chief administrative centers of the British. With time, there was a fierce competition which developed between English and the European trading powers in the Indian subcontinent. Here, finally, the British they won, with the French remaining to challenge their authority. Soon, powers they underwent a series of wars which was known as trade wars. The British and the French they were having the long history of rivalry in Europe, which continued in India as well, where both tried to establish their colonies. And here the two powers, French and the British, they fought three wars to gain supremacy in India. Here they first clash between in Carnatic regions, and these wars are known as Carnatic Wars. The British were under the command of Robert Clive, while Joseph Dupleix he was the commander who led the French people. So the rulers of Hyderabad, Carnatic and Mysore, they were in conflict with each other. Here the British and French, they took advantage of this situation and they allied themselves with the rival factions. Here the French, they were failed in this attempt in all the three wars, and they were allowed to retain only two trading ports in India, Pondicherry and Nagar. So here the Britishers won these wars. Where now starts the story from traders to rulers. As we have all seen that British they arrived in India as traders. They soon were amazed with the wealth here, and which they never imagined. They here the immense wealth of the land and their victories over the European trading companies. They made greedy. Okay, they became greedy, and now they thought to colonize India. So the declining Mughal Empire and lack of central leadership, rivalry between the kingdoms, these were the reasons which created a suitable, perfect situation for the Britishers, for the Europeans, EEIC to colonize India and to establish their mastery over the land. There were some methods which were being applied here. The first one is direct warfare, subsidiary alliance, and doctrine of lapse. Let us learn about direct warfare. The British they encountered with wars from many regional rulers in India, which led to series of direct wars. The first one is Battle of Plassey. As you all know that Bengal, it was one of the richest provinces of the Indian subcontinent, and it was an important commercial center as well. Ali Vardi Khan, who was the Nawab of Bengal, He tried to stop the British from misusing all the things which they were trying to do here. His grandson and successor Sirajuddaulah, he also did the same. He also asked British to take down their fortifications and to consolidate the British power further. Clive, he entered into a conspiracy with Mir Zafar, who was the commander-in-chief of Nawab's army. When Clive and Sirajuddaulah they met in the Battle of Plassey in 1757, Mir Zafar he was against Sirajuddaulah, and because of that Sirajuddaulah was forced to flee, forced to run away. So the British they won the battle, and Mir Zafar he was made the Nawab of Bengal, which made a way for the establishment of British rule in India, as Clive was made governor of Bengal, while the Nawabs of Bengal they were just the puppets in the hands of British. Now let us learn about the Battle of Buxar. So here the Britishers they soon replaced Mir Zafar with his son-in-law Mir Qasim. Here Mir Qasim he was helping Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II and the Nawab of Bengal Sujat-ud-Daulah. They combined their forces and started fighting against the British in the Battle of Buxar. However, these three were defeated and British won, and Clive they forced them to sign the Treaty of Allahabad, by which they granted English East India Company to the rights of Diwani, which gave them the right to collect revenue and administer civil justice in all these regions, that was Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Here again Mir Zafar was put back to the throne. He was made responsible for the administration of province, but the right to collect revenue, it still remained with the British, and this was known as dual system of government, where Britishers they were having the power to collect the revenue but no responsibility, while the Nawabs they were responsible for everything, but they were not having any of the power nor resources to do anything. The next is the Anglo-Mysore Wars. The English East India Company they faced strongest resistance from the rulers of Mysore, that is Hyder Ali. He was followed by his son Tipu Sultan. They tried to gain control over the kingdoms of Mysore, and the British they fought 4 battles between 1766 and 1799. Hyder Ali he died in 1782 by fighting 2 wars, and his son Tipu Sultan he also bravely continued the fight, and he was defeated by British at Seringpatnam in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War. He died defending his kingdom, and the Britishers they were able to gain control over the state of Mysore. Now let us learn about Anglo-Maratha Wars. Though the power of Marathas they declined after the third battle of Panipat, but they were still most powerful rulers in India. Here the Britishers again they were interfering in the internal matters of Marathas, by which the Marathas they started 3 wars against British. Anglo-Maratha Wars, which was fought between 1775 to 1880. Because of the disunity among the Maratha chiefs, Britishers they were able to crush Marathas, and they defeated Marathas at the end of the 3 wars. Maratha Peshwa he was abolished, and the whole kingdom of Maratha was being annexed by the Britishers. The next is the Anglo-Sikh Wars. Under the leadership of Ranjit Singh, they established a powerful empire in the Punjab region. So the Ranjit Singh, he was the king, and he maintained cordial relationship with the British. After his death, Khalsa or the Sikh army took over. Khalsa they disrupted British, and they did not trust them. So the British they began to increasingly interfere in the affairs of the Sikh, because of which 2 Anglo-Sikh war were fought between 1845 and 1849, and here the Sikh army was being defeated, and Punjab was made their subordinate state. Now let us learn about subsidiary alliances. As the corruption within the EEIC increased, the British government they decided to establish more direct control over India, and now it was the most profitable thing to do so. Warren Hastings in India was sent as the representative of the British government. He was the first Governor General of India. With the backing of the British government, there were new strategies, new methods which were being took to bring the different parts of India under the control of British. And one of these strategy was subsidiary alliances, which was adopted by Richard Wellesley, the Governor General of India between 1798 to 1805. Now, what subsidiary alliance was? Under this alliance, Indian rulers who were not allowed to maintain their army, okay, they have to maintain British troops in their state. If they are not able to do so, their territory was being seized by the British. So the troops, they will provide the rulers protection and security from the external attacks. The Indian rulers on their part, they could not fight wars, they could not sign treaties or maintain any of the relationship with foreign powers without the consent of the British. A British officer called a residence, he was being stationed at the court of the ruler. Some of the states which joined this alliance were Awadh and Hyderabad, the Maratha states, most of the Rajput states, Cochin, Travancore and Mysore. The British, they were being benefited from such alliance as they could not maintain a large army at the local expenses. Though Indian rulers, they gained security, but they lose their independence. And after maintaining the British troops, it was a huge drain in the state resources, as it was very high amount to maintain the British army, where they were being forced, the rulers, they were being forced to increase the taxes, and as a result they were not able to administer the state effectively. So all in all, Britishers, they were being benefited, and the regional rulers, they were not able to administer the state effectively. The next is doctrine of lapse. It was one of the most controversial policies which was adopted by British to expand their empire in India, as this policy was devised by Governor General Dalhousie. As in India, traditionally, when a ruler passed away, the kingdom, it passed down to their heir, his or her heir, and this policy states that if the ruler has no natural heir, they were being not allowed to adopt one. Under the doctrine of lapse, they said that the adopted heirs, they were not recognized by the British as right successors. So whenever a subsidiary state died without a natural heir, the kingdom, the territory directly went under the Britishers. Some of the territories annexed by the British through the doctrine of lapse were Satara, Nagpur and Jhansi. Now let us learn about the administration under the East India Company. As there were many of the guidelines to follow, there were certain administrative policies which were being adopted, and the two mains were maintaining and strengthening their hold in India and maximizing profit. Accordingly, there were 4 agencies which were created: the civil services, the army, the police and the judiciaries. So the civil services, as Lord Cornwallis, he was the Governor General of India, he founded ICS, Indian Civil Services. Indian civil servants, they were responsible for law and order and revenue administration in the districts of India. And first of all, at the beginning time, all the members of ICS were British, but later the Charter Act of 1853 allowed Indians also to join the service through an open competitive examination. Here, the higher post still in the civil services was continued to held by British, and each district was headed by a magistrate or a collector. So the next is army. The army was very important to the consolidation of British Empire in India, which defended the empire from rival imperial forces. So it consisted with large number of Indian soldiers known as sepoys, and the commanding officers were mostly British. The sepoys, they lived in cantonments where they were given a regular salary by the British, so they remained loyal to the empire of Britishers. The next is the police. Here British, they created a police department to enforce law and order and to prevent crime. The district was divided into police jurisdictions known as stations or thanas. Each thana was headed by a daroga or head constable, we can say, and they have to report to the superintendent of police. Here the superintendent reported to the district magistrate, and the police, they played an important role in forcing the Indians to obey the rules and laws of Britishers. The next is judicial administration. As until the British, they arrived in India, judicial system, it was based on religious shastra, okay, and in 1772 there was a new judicial system that was known as Adalat, which was established, where Hindu Pandits and Muslim Qazis, they helped the British judge to interpret the laws. and the court they tried both civil and criminal cases. Here they introduced rule of law, where equality before law, where everyone is equal in the eyes of law, was being established. In 1865 there were three high courts which were created in Calcutta, Madras and Bombay. At the local level there were number of district courts, registrar courts and subordinate courts which were established. So students, with this we have reached to the end of the lesson. Read the same chapter from your textbooks, and if you have any doubt, feel free to ask. Till then, keep learning and have a good day ahead.